We're on the air. This is Larry Locken coming at you from the Southern Oregon coast. I've got my co-host Carolyn Roberts down in San Antonio, Texas. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Carolyn and Larry. Today we're going to talk a little bit about letting go of friendships, letting go of maybe loving a family member from afar that you just can't seem to vibe with. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and you know, how attitude has kind of changed over the years, and people are starting to feel more comfortable in doing that when they need to. And then, yeah. So, Carolyn, good morning. How are you? I hear some feedback going on there a little bit.
Yeah, I think there is some. You were a little bit low a minute ago. I'm good. I mean, we're in these intense energies, and I'm smiling. I woke up today, so it's all a blessing, And I'm grateful to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Me too, me too. And this is, a subject I've thought about a while. I used to, because to me, I'm so sensitive with everything, any kind of relationship I'm in, friend, family, even, intimate one, when it's over, I feel like my problem is, Carolyn, is once I love somebody on any level, once I love them, I feel like I want them to be in my life forever. And I've had trouble myself putting up boundaries and things of that nature, right? And sometimes when I was a little bit younger, I will admit I had trouble accepting other people's boundaries, because I would
Yeah.
want to still be in their life a little bit. I mean, I didn't go crazy and stalk anybody or anything, but, I'd be like, God damn, man, why, what did I do? What is it? But then I realized too is that people move on. Sometimes people just have other things going on, right, in their life. And it just we get busy, but then sometimes it's just a situation where it just doesn't resonate anymore. And then I
Yeah.
think I've had a hard time accepting that in some situations. You know what I mean? I know you talked about people in your life kind of had to love from afar and that stuff, but it's
Yeah.
rough sometimes.
What was that?
It's rough sometimes, is what I was saying. It can be rough sometimes.
Yeah, it's just like you were saying. Once you meet them, they're part of you, and the way it's the same with me. Once they're my friend, they're always in my heart. Whether any relationship that is of significant meaning, they're in my heart forever. You know, I wonder how they're doing. I send them love. You know, I I I feel they're in an intense place. I cry a little bit. I send them love because even if I've had to put up those boundaries, like you're talking about, um, harsh, strict boundaries or whatever, uh, they're still there. They haven't left. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just have I have a habit of past tripping a lot, future tripping, past tripping, and I sometimes think about the past and I think about how they were there all the time, and then maybe I'm not working with them anymore, or we just don't see each other anymore on a basis like that. But then sometimes it becomes a situation where you both get into different things, and sometimes they don't really resonate with what you're doing anymore, and it just seems like it's time to move on. And I'm wondering, I think as we're evolving as a society, I think it seems to me like I'm having an easier time doing that when I need to, and accepting when others are doing that, and accepting that it's nothing necessarily bad on me. It's just that, that's just the way that it is, right? But then sometimes it's a healthy thing to do. And I kind of I struggle to find that fine line between being, thinking that I'm being arrogant and just like I'm too good for them anymore, because that's not what it's about. And I try to think of it that way when they do the same, that it's not necessarily that they think they're too good for me anymore. But then sometimes I think it is though too. You have that arrogance of a human being, and sometimes it is that way. But I guess it just comes right down to you have to really accept what somebody else, the boundaries that those other people have put up.
Yeah, it's there. It can be. There's want to say there's people saying hi. I don't know if you can say hi. I'm
Yeah,
waving.
I can too. Hey, hi, official Good You
Hi.
comedian. I see that, and I see everybody on TikTok saying hi.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. We're on. Okay, so we're on We're on Twitter. We're on X. We're on TikTok. We're coming from YouTube. We're also on Facebook Live, and we're on Instagram as well right now. Okay, and then hopefully we'll have a couple more as we go. I mean, we got Twitch, we have Rumble, and hopefully there'll be a few more. But I'm only, we're only two people. We can only do so much, right? And
Yeah,
focus at the same time. We don't have a
yeah.
producer, but
So,
we're trying to
and
get the word out as much as possible.
the thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to go back to what we're talking about. But one of my dear soul sisters mentioned something about this particular podcast that I'm going to say, Larry, is that Larry channels. So Larry brings through his channel, I bring through my channel, and then we have this conversation. So in this podcast, and I know there's got to be others that are doing the same, but I don't have awareness of them right now. We are having three conversations at once constantly, which is something that my soul sister pointed out, and I didn't think about it because my channeling is natural, just like his channeling, and frankly, everybody channels. It's just if you're actually listening to that channel and it's part of you. Um,
Hmm.
and so I'm just gonna qualify this podcast with that because we're constantly doing this balance. That's just this. So as we talk about relationships, so the thing about relationships to me is that they're always mirrors, and sometimes when you're looking in that mirror to another and they don't reflect something that you desire about yourself, or to be blunt, maybe don't want to see about yourself, those are both kind of the same. You can turn away and you can end that relationship because maybe they're showing you something you don't want to see or you're not ready to see. No judgment. That's part of being human, or they're mirroring something that maybe you do want to see and you're drawn to them but they maybe they're at another level, with no judgment of self. They're at a place where they're like, you are where I used to be. I'm not going there
Hmm.
anymore. And then they pull away for that reason, but
Yep.
the bottom line of relationships of all kinds, your neighbor, your mailman, your best friend, your mom, your parents, your everybody, they're all mirrors, and they're all mirrors that are showing you things that either you need to see, that you're going to learn, and they're going to help you learn and grow. And that's not a pleasant thing. That can be beautiful, but it's also really intense. Or they can show you things that you don't see in you, and some of those things are really beautiful, and they're like, they're showing you in another light. And the biggest thing I'm going to say about them is they're these mirrors, and then it's up to you what you see and project or receive from those mirrors. Does it make sense?
It makes total sense. We really, when it comes right down to it, too, we're just manifestations of each other. We're just constantly manifesting and creating as beings. That's what we do. That's what we've done since the beginning of time, which there was no beginning of time, but we just constantly keep expanding and manifesting over and over and over again. And we're all just mirrors of each other, like Carolyn said, totally. And the channeling thing, absolutely. Her and I both channel 24/7. That's why my
Yeah.
conversation sometimes can start with we could be talking about salt, and it'll go all the way through the alphabet of different things. I can go off on
Yeah.
different. I can go into any kind of subject, right? And so that's what happens. Is Carol and I are having three different conversations. We're talking to our guides coming through to us, and then we're trying to talk to each other too. And it just kind of, it's not a hard thing for us to do, but it can. I get the impression sometimes it can maybe sound to other people like, okay, are they all over the place? And so I'm conscious of that too, but there's not
Yeah.
really anything we can do about it, and it's not something I'm going to try to fight off. I'm grateful to have that connection with spirit, like I'm sure Carolyn definitely is.
Yeah.
But if you notice, like with Carolyn, you guys, one thing about Carolyn too, I always notice with her and her guides is she has a direct conversation going on with them at all times, and she might, for a split second when she'll be saying talking, she'll talk to her guide, and they'll come back
Yeah.
right at it. But she doesn't have to get into hysterics and semantics and stuff about them coming through. It's just a quick word to them, and a quick word back, and then she's back at it. So she is 24/7, and it made me realize too that I am as well, and
Yes.
probably always have been.
Yes.
Whereas there's a different kind of channeling too, where I can get relaxed and get into a thought flow with a specific being. Right
Hmm.
now, I do a lot of that, but that's
Yeah.
not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about just them coming through us, our higher self, or maybe it is one of them sometimes, and that's just how it is. But back to the relationship thing, right? I think that yeah, and I think I've been on both I've definitely been on the end of having to distance myself from people because of it, and I know that I've been on the receiving end of it too, and that's really a hard pill to swallow. I
Yeah.
like to try to think that I don't have much of an ego much anymore, but that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. But I know that it's been the case, and then what I have to do is I have to take a look at myself, and if it's really bothering me, I have to. I learned that I have to take a look in the mirror and wonder, and not wonder, but look at what I've done that would have caused that, right? And then I have to
Mhm.
realize that okay, that's just me. That's how it is. I can be mindful of it, and there might be a thing or two to change or tweak here and there, but that's just kind of the way it's going to go anyway. But as long as you're mindful of it, and it's like you don't want to give all your energy to anything in particular, but you want to be aware of it. Awareness is power. Consciousness is power, right? They say knowledge is power, but consciousness and awareness are truly power. Heightened perception is power, and so it's about being aware of all this stuff and knowing it, and then you know filing it away,
Right.
and using it for when you need to, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I was going to mention that I can't speak for others, but there's certain relationships, soul family, I've had to move away from because um, I don't. I mean, I've told you this, and it sounds judgmental when I say it, but it's the truth of my heart. Is they were not walking in integrity, their integrity, and we all have to learn what that is for us. For me, that's the law of the heart, and we have to decide. And the choice to walk in that, to be authentic as much as you can access in every moment. And it's for yourself, it's not for others, it's always for you. Being authentic with who you are is an act of self-love. And it's not easy. But I mean, what I always receive about integrity is it's the path. It's the path, walking in integrity as much as possible. And that is like not negotiable, is what I always get within me. Because not others, not God, not, when you step out of that. And when you're with soul family and they're in this place where they're making a choice, and I'm not saying it's an unconscious choice, it's a conscious choice to not make that choice that is in integrity, and you love that person and you hold the highest for them. It hurts because they're making a step away from their growth in that choice. There's no judgment, because that's how we learn, is we learn through the contrast, right? But it's still not easy, and that's where you have to begin to draw up those boundaries. And they don't have to be cold boundaries. You can still be loving. You just stop the interactions like they were. You pull back from the relationship. Like we were saying in the beginning of the podcast, they're still in your heart, they haven't left. But you just I'm hearing you can't walk that walk. You aren't that anymore. And when you begin a relationship, it's you begin it and you're in it with somebody, and you have those exchanges, because there's this, maybe you're saying hi and maybe there isn't a direct connection, but the connection comes from the
Yeah,
interaction of a person, because you get your ahas, you get your, oh, they're like this, oh, they like, and it's beautiful. And to me, it's all expressions of love at different levels. And then you can choose via discernment how much engagement you want to give to this relationship by your observation of their behavior, and then their actions that either follow through and are balanced with that behavior, a straight line, or if their behavior is this way and their actions are this way, meaning they're out of integrity, or they're not um, or they're not in the same place you are with that, right, Larry?
yeah, absolutely right. And I've also found too that I've been in situations where I've had this long relationship with somebody, a friendship, and we come in and out of each other's lives at different phases for a while, right? I mean, there'll be a while where and then we meet up again, and then the episode's over and we move on, right? It's kind of like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know a TV show to compare it to, but it's like that. it's like, for a while, and then you kind of, you ride off into the
Reruns.
sunset away.
I'm hearing reruns. You got reruns going on.
Yeah, I got reruns. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right, right. Not the rerun from What's Happening, but literally reruns going on
Yeah,
TV shows.
reruns.
Yeah, right, 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 right. But yeah, exactly. And then you meet up with him again, and then you do your thing for a while, and then you kind of fade away again and go do your own thing. I think the majority of it is that kind of a scenario where it's just that both people get busy with life, right, and you go on to other things and different
Yeah.
interests, right. It's not, and then sometimes it is just a boundary. It's just a boundary thing, right. Yeah, and I found myself in a position before where I've asked people about it, like when I was younger. I go, "Oh, did I do something to make you mad or upset you?" And it's really kind of putting somebody on the spot. You know,
Yeah,
um, I wouldn't
because
recommend
they weren't
doing that
ready.
unless it's, yeah, unless
Yeah,
it's with like a relation, a relationship, an intimate one. Then maybe that's okay to kind of ask for that closure to get that kind of a opinion. But when it's a friendship or a family member, you can still love them from afar, and who knows? Sometimes it works out to where you guys come back around together and do your thing. We're just manifestations of each other in our own matrix. We all have our own matrix we live in. I know that word's kind of touchy, but our own matrix. That guy you wave to down the street that you see every now and then, he's that's his role in your matrix. Okay, but he has his own matrix too, and that's only just your role in his matrix. Is that you're that lady or you're that guy that he waves to, right? That's who you are. That's who you are in his world, right? So same
right, right.
thing. Right. And yeah, so but it's not easy when you're alone and you're disconnected. And I think with these formats, we've had the ability to connect with each other and share similar experiences and feel similar vibes with each other and know that, we're not alone. I think there was a time where being alone, you just wonder if you were the only one in the world that's happened to
Right.
having to go through something like that, right? You're going, God, what did I do? What, and I just feel, and I feel sorry for that little boy in me that felt that way, or that young man in me that felt that way. And I just want to give him a hug and let him know that it's
Yeah.
okay. It's
Right.
really, it's really a hard thing for me. It's okay. It's okay. You can't do anything about the past. You can keep it in mind and try to, I don't even want to. If I say you could try to just do better in the future, I don't want to sound like I'm lecturing or
Yeah.
belittling anybody because you don't know what's going to come up and you can't plan your life around that. And so you can just try to do in every now moment you're in the best you can, and try to know when to cut your losses if you have to. You know what I mean? Know when to say when, right? It's there comes a time where you have to make that discernment and that judgment as to, okay, do I need to back off? Do I need to step it up? Do I need to whatever it is that I might need to do? But,
Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing that I was remembering just now is with all of that, that little boy for you and the little girl for me, um, kindness goes a long way, in
a
that kind
little
of place.
emotion goes. Yeah, a little emotion. I've always said a little emotion goes a long, long way.
Yeah. It's
It
a big
really
deal.
does.
It's a big
Oh,
deal. Um, I'm looking at my notes because I took all these notes that started to come through me about relationships when we were originally talking about this. Um, and I told you these, but it's like that I got these ahas, and shifts in systems is shifts in relationships. We've talked about this with other podcasts. We've talked about the prison system. We talked about homelessness. We talked about the education system.
mhm.
There's other societal systems, and all of those are changed by the shift in relationships, and this is the relationships that we have with others, but I would say more significantly the relationship we have with ourselves. And I mean,
Mhm.
even as you and I talked about, that we channel. I mean, everybody channels. To me, that's what I receive. It's just they may not
Constantly.
be listening to that channel, right? That in
Mhm.
itself is a relationship. You have a certain relationship with those energies. You have a relationship with your fur babies. Uh, they're these are all significant because they're teaching you, right? Like it's a conversation, the community that you've got when you're connecting with others. That's about those relationships, and like I said before, they're mirrors, and so you're shifting your relationship with you, and the more authentic you are with yourself and the more honest you are, all balanced with kindness and compassion, the deeper and deeper and deeper you go into yourself and that inner conversation, and you begin to really see that you are not alone, that there's a whole universe within you. My suggestion, my feeling has always been that the universe is within us.
Yeah,
And
it's within.
those relationships, it's like, when you're not paying attention, when you're asleep, when you're up here, you're not connecting with the fact that you really aren't alone. Although I do understand that, because we're human, and so we have those feelings, but and that energy. But when you deepen that conversation within yourself, and you open up to that, you open your heart, and you let in that, you open that portal, that multidimensional portal, and you have these conversations, you begin to really learn about yourself in relationship, in relation to this energy, this new knowledge, this way of interacting. And I'm getting all kinds of thing about sovereignty and
Mm-hmm.
solitude, and I'm seeing like monks and people sitting and meditating, and it's all of that is the foundation of the expansion of you, and then the internal, the within shifts, and then the without, those external relationships shift, and you are compelled to, you can, those that are like you, it's magnetic, and they're drawn to you because it's the same
Mm-hmm.
frequency. And those that are
Same
not,
rate.
they're repelled. They don't, that's where those relationships end, and it sucks. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's kind of, you don't expect it, you don't see it, and sometimes you do. Sometimes you can feel this
And you get
happening, and
denial. Yeah, you can get denial about it too. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's not about attachment, because the hard part, and this is, we all go through this, is you understand, as much as you love that person, that relationship, that interaction, that connection, the way you see yourself and interact yourself in that relationship, you finally begin to understand, or you will begin to understand, that it's you seeing yourself in that way, allowing yourself to be that way in that mirror of that beautiful other soul. And you could say the same thing for them too. And then, as you continue to deepen this relationship, as we all are in this internal conversation, these souls become more and more like you in frequency. And now I'm guided to tell,
You
like what I
become a
talked about,
collective.
the
Mm-hmm.
spiral. um
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell this to my clients, is that what I was always given was, I get so many things in spirals. There's a
Means, yeah,
spiral
you're
when you first,
Alcyone. Yeah.
yeah, when you first begin your awakening, reawakening of what you are, that there is more to you than a box that gets up and goes to work and comes home, and that there actually is a soul in there. When you begin to awaken to that, the way I always see it is that you're drawn to these people, and there's spiritual, or there are these connections, and you think that there's this, whoa, bond. And the truth is, because you're still learning about who you are, you're in the outer part of that spiral. And so your connection with them really isn't as close as you think it is, because your relationship with yourself is not as close, is not as um, connected as you really
Right.
think it is, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
more that you do that inner work on you, and the more that you open up and you allow you more, by releasing and letting go of those things that aren't you, which is people, which is relationships. It's also thought patterns and belief systems. And it's the spiral gets tighter, and those relationships get more and more synced. They're significant, and sometimes they can be really, really special, and you join and you're together, and the purpose is served, and then you're those are very painful soul family, soul, what do you call it, karmic, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a balance that's made, and you're given something, and there's a click, and it opens you up to this next level of you. And it's the same thing with them, although those are painful lessons. But
Oh,
it's
aren't
like,
they though? Boy, yeah, sure are.
the more and more you get, you, the more and more that you are doing that inner work for you, um, the tighter that spiral gets, and the tighter that connection between you and those others, and until you're at this place where you're just like, you think you are, and we're all beautiful and unique. And the beautiful thing about that is that we all share truly the same heart, the heart of one. And what I receive is that when you get in that relationship within yourself more, and you are living through your heart, is what I'm hearing, those relationships, you know, there's already a foundation of, I'm hearing, a foundation of integrity, a foundation of authenticity, and you're in the more of the tighter in that spiral, more of the center of that spiral, because there really are, there's not as many barriers anymore, because you've worked through so many of them. But in the beginning, when you're still reawakening and you're new, and I said this the last podcast, but I'm getting this visual again, Larry. It's like you're sitting on the edge of the pool and you're dipping your toe in the water. That's when you're
Mm-hmm.
first reawakening. You you're drawn to these people
Yeah.
because you're like, oh my god, I saw witches, witch, spells, and oh my god, that's my thing, that's my thing. And you're not
Mm-hmm.
aware that maybe they're drawn to that, but there's a lot of other things about them that just
Mm-hmm.
aren't you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're beautiful teachers, though. I mean, that's the thing about relationships, is that they teach us. And that's why we're having this podcast, to me, is
Well,
that to remind of the significance of them,
well,
Larry.
it's funny you've said that because I've made that kind of well, I don't want to call it a mistake, but I've made that assumption before. Like I'll see a group of when I first awaken, a group of people that are into what I am into, but then I lose track of the thought that there's also this all this other stuff that make up their completeness of who they are, and maybe some of the things that I find funny or some of the things that I think are cool or that I'm into, they're not really into
Yeah,
that either. So you have to kind of tone it back and understand that okay, you share that in common with them, that you have that, like you talked about Wicked or whatever, right? You
yeah,
have that in common maybe with them, but you don't have really some of them. You have a lot in common otherwise with them, and some you don't really have anything else in common with them, and then you got to learn that distinction,
yeah,
right? And put that together, and understand that you don't, if you're a big joke teller, you don't go, you can't just go up to them and tell them some off color joke, right? That they may not be ready for it, or they may look at you like
yeah,
cross-eyed, or right, you don't want to just start getting into them and telling them your whole life story. But I used to have a habit of being telling people my whole life story right up front in 2 minutes. Oh, hey, I'm Larry, by the way. This is what I did. This is what I did. This is what I did. This is what I was into. This is what I did then and now. And you know what I mean? And like there, I'm an open book. It's a little bit much for people sometimes to take. You know, um,
yeah.
y-
I was reminded within myself something I've spoken of in another podcast, but it was when I was a mom, full-time mom,
mhm,
raising our my and my ex-husband's two daughters. And I made going to moms groups my job, to get my girls out, socialize them. And they were like, one was a baby and one was a toddler. And I remember I was in
mhm,
this one moms group that was like 30 moms. And I think I was in it for like a year, and we talked about, you know, gossip and fashion and all these other things.
mhm.
And I thought they were good friends, and, nice people, good friends. And then I had this, I don't know, because I feel like it really isn't one reawakening. It's many, many layers. And so
Yep.
maybe this was one of my most significant ones. This was 2008 or something. And I just woke up one day,
Yeah.
and I was going to the moms group, and I woke up, and these thoughts were so intense in my head. And it was like, yeah, they love these fashions. We talk about fashion, and we talk about gossip, and we talk about this, and we talk about our children, but I don't really know who this person is, you know,
Mhm.
we don't really talk about anything meaningful. And I knew how some of them were, you know, and I just kind of ignored it because you
Yeah.
do that when you've got children. You want to
Mm.
make that connection, and I understood that, but there was something that really shifted within me. The relationship I had with myself had shifted within me, and so what I was drawn to externally shifted too. And I loved those women. I still love those women, but it's like it was like this aha, because I was like, I don't really know who these people are. I don't
Yeah.
really like, because we really talked about, and we, you know, baby poo and, you know, children stuff and gossip this and da 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 fashion this, and all of that is like
Mm. Superficial.
surface crap. Yeah, and
Mhm.
it was like, and so I got to that mom's group and I realized that that was the last day I would be there, because I these were like strangers, and I could have gotten to know them better, and I now I'm thinking, well, I could have, but part of me already knew where a lot of them were, and that I knew I couldn't have the conversations I wanted to have with them that I was ready to have then at the time.
Right. You had entered a whole new entered a whole new realm, right? And you were excited about it. And see, some people would have made the mistake of started going, or maybe it wouldn't have been a mistake, it started going off and talking about this kind of stuff with these people, right? You know, it's like when I had my awakening, I started doing that with people that were in my life, and they thought it was really weird and it was a little bit much for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
They,
I,
yeah.
I think I was dealing with other things in my life, and so I remember what I did, but I just could not deal with that at the time. It was like 30 women, and there was one that was very very meaningful to me, and I think I continued my friendship with her. And the rest, they just kind of fell away because they were wonderful souls. It's just they definitely weren't on the same place I was. They would not have the same conversations I wanted to have. I knew that, and it was so interesting because it was like a knock upside the head. It was like I'm this way one day and I'm this way the next. And the other thing I'm going to mention, because I'm getting very firmly, is, you know, in these intense energies that we're getting now. I mean, in every podcast, it's going to be like intense energies, but they're
Hmm.
intense. You
Yeah,
know,
they really are. Yeah.
there will be souls that wake up like that. One day they go to bed and they're this way, and they wake up the next morning and they
Yeah.
have these
Yep.
new thoughts and these new ideas and these new
Hmm.
concepts, and they're making choices to maybe, I mean, to be blunt, what I'm getting is they're breaking up with somebody they've been with because they figured out that this is a superficial relationship, right?
Yeah.
Or their best friend that they've known for years, and they figure out that they really don't even know this person, and these things that have bugged them a little bit but they've been like, it's not important, are now like this, and they won't go away. And that's the way it happens, because those things, just like you're saying, Larry, these things that are considered, they're not talked about, or they weren't talked about, now they're talked about more. But it's like, yeah, those come up, and it's like choices are seen, intent is seen. What is the true intent? What, you know, what are you? And it's not about judging the other, it's about observing where they are with that. Are they, what is their commitment level towards, you know, change, or towards themselves, or towards healing, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, some are just not there, and some might be more open, and you might actually open up a new level of a relationship with them. um
Hmm. You, you know,
yeah.
you know, you know too, and then sometimes you realize that. Have you ever been in a situation where you realize that it was just kind of this? Your whole relationship with that person was based on like one thing. You know, it was just based on one thing. Like, I mean, like
Right.
somebody that's quit drinking, that's no longer going out to the bars anymore, right? They don't have
Right.
that relationship anymore with somebody, or whether it's drugs, right? You don't. You realize that your whole relationship
Was that
was revolved around that, right? And so, you know, those are kind of the easy ones to spot, though. You know, those are kind of those ones like that. Situations like that are kind of a given. That's what it is, right? And you accept it during that situation. I liken it to also to you get a lot of famous bands, okay, they didn't break up ever really. They've been together forever, but they're to the point now where they don't even talk to each other. They just get on stage. I know, like for instance, I'll just use them. The Eagles got to point, they didn't have they don't speak to each other for years, but they tour together, but they don't speak to each other. They get on
Yeah.
stage, they know what they're going to do. They turn it on when they get on there. Same thing with the Who. I'm sure Townsend and Daltrey don't really talk to each other, but they've been touring forever and ever and ever. And they get up there and they go, and once that light comes on, boom, you know what I mean? They get
Boom.
on there and
Yeah.
yeah, they're there. But afterward, it isn't like when they were younger, when they were all really close. And that's how they developed that bond together.
Yeah.
They were really close with each other, right? But then, years go by and years go by and years go by. And, you're just, you know each other so well that you really, if you have anything to say to each other, it's telepathic and kind of already known anyway. But that's a situation where you're doing it for finance, I mean, you're doing it for a career, right? You're doing it for financial reasons, but you're still doing it together and you still know how to do your thing. But yeah, you just get on there and get up there, and once it's over with, you're done. You don't really hang out anymore or anything like that. And that's how it goes, though, sometimes. But I think of that as a situation too, where in their personal life, that other person is no longer needed. And if it wasn't for that band or wasn't for what they do there, they wouldn't be, they really wouldn't be dealing with each other at all at that point. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. And then very much, I understand that. I was just given something. Um, yeah, that makes sense. When you get to this place, like you and I haven't tested this, but I'm guaranteed you and I are at this place. I know my babe and I are at this place, and I know other soul family are at this place of like telepathy,
Yep.
which when I receive the telepathy, it's not the thoughts, it's the energy, it's the how are they feeling, what's
Right.
going on with them, where's their heart, and you feel it, and sometimes it comes out of the blue. You're just like, there's the thought of that person and you're feeling this and you're like, whoa, they're having a rough time. Wow, maybe I need to call them. Or sometimes it might be like,
Mhm.
well, they don't want to talk to anybody, so just send them love. Okay, I'm going to send them love. And this really is awesome for those that you pulled away from that are still here, and you're feeling their shifts, and you want to be able to do more, but you can't, because they're the ones that have to walk through those experiences and learn those lessons. And you pulled away from them for a reason. And that's a hard part too, because sometimes I get those and it's like I want to reach out to them, and I like almost do it, and my guides are like, no, no, don't,
Mhm.
no, do not open that door. No, that's not, they're not at the same frequency. Yes, you feel them, but no, don't make that choice. Like, damn. Because you feel them, and it's the beautiful thing is those that are actually in your life. You can choose to text them, reach out to them. Um, any of those beautiful ways that we can reach out to people these days and say, hey, what's going on? You okay? You know, um, and that's the gift of. I don't know if it's the gift of now, or if it's definitely the gift of the deeper that you get within yourself and your heart, and the conversation. You can feel those connections so much more, and I am getting it is the heart. It's the you're feeling you're,
Reawakening. Yeah.
you're feeling their frequency. Yeah, you're feeling their frequency where they are.
Yeah, you're tuned into the radio station. We're all just big, and it's the more we evolve, we're radio stations, right? And the more that we
Right.
evolve, the more wattage we put out there, the more power we become more of a big powerhouse superstation, right? We pump out that wattage and it attracts. It attracts people, believe it or not. It certainly attracts the extraterrestrials. I'll tell you that right now. But if you've had contact with them or have soul family that are ETs, it attracts them. Some of them, they're not always your soul family. They're just other beings that have been attracted to your frequency. Um,
Yeah.
and they
Yes.
find you. They find you, and they communicate with you, or they try to anyway. And that's how it goes. And I think it comes into being mindful, right, of what you want to put out there. You're certainly not going to hear Nat King Cole on the greatest metal hits of the 1980s, right? You're not going to hear the Glenn Miller band on or you're not gonna get Metallica on polka, polka hits of the '60s or whatever.
It's the
The
frequency.
frequency,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's the discernment becomes stronger and stronger, and yeah, you hear that more, and you're just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to reach out to them. Though, I mean, like with the One Soul family I was telling you about recently, I did reach out to them, and
mhm,
I my conclusion is that they're going through a rough time, because I think they blocked me on Facebook, which
mhm.
sucks. And I love them very much. And I'm sure that's happening to many, where it's like,
Yeah, and
they're going through tough times. You
I
know.
don't really believe in blocking people unless I really need to. Like I just had a situation the other day with one of the admins who was really, but that's a whole nother story I won't get
Yeah.
into. But typically, I just won't talk to them. I mean, they don't. But I've had people just say, "Well, I've got to block you. It's for my spiritual growth." I'm like, "Yeah, all you had to do was tell me you didn't want to talk to me, and I would shit gladly not." You know what I mean? You don't have to do that, but if you feel like you need to, go ahead. But it's like I try to tell people, I'm not going to fuck with you, man. Come on. You wanna go to
Yeah.
the 2 seconds it takes to block me, okay, but I think that's kind of that can be kind of you gotta accept them for that, but that's kind of an arrogance too. I can't see myself ever if I was so mad or so in a situation where I needed to block them, boy, they would know it. If it was a case where I just didn't wanna kinda deal with them anymore, but they weren't really bothering me either,
Yeah.
though, you know what I mean? If they weren't fucking with me either, I wouldn't go block them. I just wouldn't do it. I mean, it's kind of I only use that feature in case I need to. I mean, what are you gonna do
I
if you had to live what are you gonna do if you had to live around these people? You might not like your neighbor that much, but yet they're not any kind of physical or mental threat to you. They're not any
I've
kind of threat
I've
to you. You
I
gotta
know
deal
there's
with it.
significant people in my life that have me
Mhm.
blocked, because they have to be on Facebook, and they they aren't ready for me. I guess that's all I can say.
No, that is the truth. It's not an opinion. That's what it is. I was thinking it before you said it. They're not
Yeah,
ready for what you're yeah, exactly, and I'm conscious of that too. I think about people I went to high school with and stuff like that, and, seeing their
yeah.
stuff, and, it's so to some people, it's so out there to be a new what do you wanna stereotype it as, light worker, starseed, new age, back in the day calling it that. It's so out there for some people that they have to be open to the concept of believing it before they could actually see it or have any kind of
There,
resonance with it, right?
yeah. And the other thing I'm going to say is there are some people I have blocked over the years. I've had to, because the brighter your light gets, yeah, moth to a flame is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
They they're inappropriate, and not even in a sexual way. You're just like, I said you love, but I really don't want your energy to, it, when they're bugging you, like when they're stalking you, when they're, I've had that
yeah.
happen. Yes.
Don't
Um,
fuck with my flow, and I won't yours. I mean, seriously, don't fuck
it
with the
sucks.
flow. Yeah, exactly. Don't fuck
It
with the
sucks.
flow, man.
I've had to do that, because it's like, from the moment you meet them, you're just like,
Yeah,
yeah, I can feel you. I can feel your intent. Or you could be like, I've met this person before. Their energy feels the exact same, and
mhm.
you go check out their profile, and you're just like, there's nothing different. When is the last time that I talked to you? 5 years, and you're still asking me the same questions, and you're still, I'm hearing,
Yeah,
trying to make me uncomfortable, questioning my questioning things that really aren't your business. It's like,
yeah, really, dude. I know, and
yeah,
you wonder I know, and then people, it takes all, and it goes back to kind of that old saying, right, where it takes all kinds to make this world go round, right? Because
right,
I could sit here and get into a bitch session with you about it, be like, yeah, I get those people too, and I don't know, I really don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. I mean, it's so beneath me that I'm
yeah,
like, I passed that shit when I was in kindergarten. I mean, I don't, y'all talking to me about this or that. And it's like, but what do I think of this? What do I think of that? And I mean, sometimes I just don't even have an answer for them. I mean, how do I feel like, how do you want me to answer that, really? I mean, but
yeah,
I've
for
learned
sure.
I've learned what I've learned to, for the most part, is not be arrogant with them about it, not come across as being a dick unless it's really, unless it's I feel it's really necessary to
Yeah.
do it to get my point across, right? It's like I feel like and I've always tried to be nice about it. I've had people talk to me and go, "Oh, have you heard of this guy? You got to listen to this guy. You know, listen." I'm trying to sit there and tell them as they're telling me, yeah, a long time ago, I already know everything about that. I already know about all about that subject. I'm way beyond it, way past it, man. And it's not any slight on your personal growth because we're all in this together and we are all at different levels at different things. You're
Right.
you're higher than me at some levels. I'm higher than you at some levels, and we're at the same level on something. But it's like, don't and they just keep going on about it. It's like, dude, are you listening to me? Man, I mean, yeah, I've heard of these people. I know what, yeah, and then, but
And
they keep go on.
those flash in the pan is what I'm hearing. They teach us too, because
Mhm,
maybe you engage with them, even though you can feel in your gut,
mhm,
they're this person, they really aren't at the same place. They're really not gonna want to connect with this stuff, but you're at this place where you're just like, okay, you want to talk to me? Let's talk about
mhm,
this. And it goes nowhere. In the past, I would ignore that, and I would just be like, nope, nope, I'm gonna be loving. I'm gonna reach out to this person. I'm gonna talk to this person.
mhm.
It's like, what I'm hearing, I don't really do a lot of biblical phrases, but I'm hearing pearls before swine right now. And it's like, your energy is sacred. And you can certainly say hi, but you don't need to engage somebody who is not not there for the best intent, is what I'm hearing, um, and not really going to be able to talk to you. Um, you know, um, yeah, it's a choice each time. And sometimes, when you're out and about in the physical and you're talking to people, you could just say hi, smile, kindness, that kind of thing, and maybe it starts that relationship at another level than it would have been, because
Mhm.
you have allowed yourself to be more open than maybe you would have in the past, and it begins, and it invites that person to be open as well. And I have many relationships like that where, and you probably do too, and my
Mhm.
observation is that they talk to me differently than other people. That's what they've told me, that's what I've heard. um, because there's this openness, there's this love, and there's this honesty in which I interact with them, um, which to me, I do my best to offer that to everybody. And I hope that everybody, and my dream is that everybody will interact with everybody else that way. Certainly, I know everybody want. There's also the dark. There's also those that are very private, which is not negative.
Nope.
Because I move into those places very much where I just want to be by myself, not sending any ill will out. I just want to be with me and in that quiet, private relationship with myself. And it's both of those, right? It's talking to people who are super friendly. It's talking to people who are friendly and not very social. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And then, it's always a thing too when you're talking to some of those people that aren't very social sometimes, like me, like they'll be receptive and you'll be talking to them, and then maybe I'll go overboard a little bit and just start, talking and talking and talking and talking, their ear off, and then I can feel their comfort level maybe getting a little bit squeamish, right? So it's a sign to kind of hey back off a little bit. You know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
I
yeah.
see like a cat with the hair standing up on its back. When you said
Mhm.
that, that's the visual I saw. Go on, Larry.
Well, doing radio for years and stuff like that, I got to a point where it's like but it's kind of different for me because with those people, if it's on the other end where they might be kind of doing that to me, I've learned to just kind of talk to them in spaces. It's a time situation with me with all the groups and everything like that, and editing and doing all that stuff. It's a time
Yeah.
management thing, right? So it's like I say what I need to say, and I learn to get in and get out. But in the past, what would worry me is I'd be like, okay, gosh, did I give them enough of my attention? Do I need to take away from something I really need to do? give
Got
them
in your
just a
head.
little bit more, let them know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
all in my head. I had to get out of my head with that situation. I really, really did because it's first of all, it really doesn't it doesn't really matter because you need to do your path, they need to do their path. So it really for that's first and foremost. But actually too, um, it yeah, it can hamper what you do to really dwell on it. If you've got something to say it and be done with it, right? Don't feel guilty about it or whatever, okay? Because then you got to think about your time too. You got to think about how important you are and love yourself from within, and those problems kind of can subside a little bit. You got to think, okay, well, this person is wanting to know 1,000 questions from me all the time, and what did they do? And it isn't about what have you done for me lately or what are you going to do for me. It's not about what. That's not what I'm saying. But things are like an energy exchange, right?
Yep.
And so it's like you wonder, okay, well, they're always constantly wanting to know something or show me something. But I mean, I wonder how receptive they would be if the shoe was on the other foot. You know,
Mhm.
but that's not for me to judge because I don't know. I can't get any inside of anybody else's head but my own. So, I don't know. So some of the things that I'm thinking of and saying are just manifestations of you know, what's happened to me.
Yeah, yeah, they can be. I mean, that's the hard part, right? Is that they can be manifestations of what's happened to you, and they can also be you picking up on energy in the external. And I'm getting this right now, picking up on the energy in the external and personalizing it because you aren't in a open conversation with yourself, is what I'm hearing. It's a projection. Oh, projection. Yeah. Taking on others' projections. Not you, but that's just what I'm getting is that happens as well. That's why the again, you come back to the relationship with self love. And I'm gonna break this down because I'm being guided. When am I gonna
Hmm.
break it down? Okay, hold on. Um,
Break it
so
down.
break it down. So so I'm here. My mission is to be a reawakener of the conversation of the heart, and for me, that is the conversation between the sacred mind, sacred heart, the body vehicle, the gift of the vehicle that we live within, and which is the voice of our soul. And as we work through, we do our inner work, which is the negative belief systems and the negative thought patterns that we have held within ourselves and maybe that we've gotten from our ancestors carried forward and have kind of we're seeing the world in a certain way, this fixed way, and we haven't allowed ourselves to explore more than what this I'm hearing dogma that we've been taught, and that's the only way. And when you begin to do this inner work and you begin to truly appreciate and value and ultimately accept what you've walked through, what you're going through, um, and appreciating who you are. You're hearing these negative things from a partner, maybe, or you've got friends that are just, are they friends? They're being unkind to
Yeah.
you. They're saying things that are unkind to you. And you've always been in this place where you're just like, well, I mean, they got to be right, right? They're my friend. And you're not listening to yourself and you're not doing this conversation and you finally something clicks and you begin to like value you and you begin to honor you and respect you, and then your friend is saying this thing and you're just like, no, I don't agree with that. No, I'm not that. And the reason you can say no, I'm not that is because you're in these internal conversations within yourself and you're pushing yourself and you're listening to yourself and you're allowing yourself to release over time these negative energies, these horrible experiences that have brought you through or are bringing you through, or maybe you're in the middle of it and the rug has been pulled out from underneath you and you were, and your life was this fixed way. And now you can see that nothing is fixed, that there is complete choice, that you always have had choice, but you didn't know before because you didn't know yourself. And truly, if you're in that place, it can be devastating. But the beautiful thing about when there's an ending, there's a beginning, because life is not this line. Time is circular. Time is circular. And so you're at this place where this ending has happened, and this definitive marking point in your life and your experience has shifted you from this fixed place where you thought all of existence was this way. And now you're starting to see that there's more to life that's this way. And that is the deepening relationship that you have with yourself, which is a deepening relationship you have with your world. And like I said in the beginning of the podcast, the shift in systems is the shift in relationships. And so as you are shifting that relationship within yourself, you're changing it external. And that's like this ripple effect that will affect all these systems, the government, your business, schools, religion, all of them are affected because of this deepening relationship that everybody's getting, or they're getting in different levels of these ahas, that things are not fixed. There is choice, there is freedom, and there always has been. And it's about moving towards your joy, moving towards what you love, and what lights you up, and what matters to you, because what matters to you is not an isolated conversation. It's something that matters to everybody, truly, because it's an expression of love, which is always an ongoing, open, expansive conversation. And so the relationships are relationships. They start within you, and it's a relationship, and it goes out, and it like ripples. And then you've got these external mirrors of these friendships, and these family, and all these others that have taught you things about yourself that you didn't like or didn't want, that weren't true. So you learn what you are, because you're compelled, and it's a catalyst to see, well, I'm not this shit. I'm definitely not this shit. And so you go learn, and you go open to what, and you feel, and you realize, as you strip away all this bullshit that's been projected on you, either from your friends or your family or your belief system or anything, and you get pulled towards what you are, because you have always been that thing. You have always been aligned in that space, but you've had belief systems and thought patterns and conditioning of all kinds that have, I'm seeing like this buffer around you, around the person, that has blocked you from what you are. And as these things are pulled away, that's the rug being pulled out from underneath you, which is actually a higher shifting into higher levels of you, which doesn't happen like this. It actually happens like this, and the bottom drops out, and you begin from the bottom again. But the bottom now is a true bottom, not the false thing that you were living in before. And then you have this blessing and this challenge and journey of opening up and expanding and dropping more and more of what you aren't, because what you are has always been there. And that relationship within you of loving you was always been there too, but you have ignored it, blocked it, denied it. And so as those choices are dropped away, the authentic pool, I'm hearing authentic pool of the divine, which is,
Mm-hmm.
you could say, the highest relationship, right? Which is the divine within you, higher self, God, the divinity, the mother, the earth, which is divine, and that beautiful healing conversation as well in that relationship. And all of these bring us into these higher levels as we do the work, the painful ass, hard, difficult, and then beautiful, moving in waves, until you're at a place where you really can begin to accept everything that happened, everything, and everything you were, and all those choices you made. Not, will you ever embrace them? Well, that's up to you, but you accept them at least. And that place is like this even play. I'm hearing even playing field within me, where you can really be at this new level of you. And then those friendships that you draw in, and those relationships and all of that, are much closer, because you are in this connected much more connected conversation within you. And what I receive is that's how our world is being transformed, because souls who have done this work or are doing this work, and the bottom's dropping out as we speak, and they're going through this and they're getting into these tighter relationships with themselves, which are excruciating at first, for sure, and excruciating at different points too. But all things are in balance. And so, as this excruciating comes, and the other side of that is this beautiful, uplifting gratitude and appreciation for everything that you go through, because it's the reason why you're here, to be that beacon for those that are still in those boxed lives. Um, yeah, and those boxed relationships as well is what I'm hearing, Larry.
Yeah, and they're stuck kind of in the illusion still. They're stuck. I've been there. You're stuck. You're just you don't know where to go. You don't have anywhere to go with it, and it's frustrating when you don't have an answer. You're stuck there, and you've got to sit in it, and you don't know. You just don't know how to get the hell out of it, right? And you just you
Yeah,
pray by the grace of God that it's going to end soon, and it can be really really tough to be in that situation. Um, yeah, I just think about all the people out there that don't realize this or haven't thought about it. They think that people just don't like them or there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you as a human being. We're all, like I said, and I'll say it 100,000 more times if I'll say it one more time. We're all just manifestations of each other from the creational source flow that is the conscious of those. That's a long name, I have to say, but it's the creational source flow of all that is. That's what I thought, and that's all
yeah,
of it. The
yeah. Is
feedback back here again. I'm getting feedback.
that
Okay,
what it
there.
is? Because I'm hearing it just a little bit, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of not hearing you a little bit. Is that's feedback?
I think so because it's not me doing anything, and I know it's not you. It's not it's not my
Okay,
system. I know.
okay.
So that must be that. Yeah, sometimes that happens. I mean, you used to could never
Frustrating, but
even
yeah.
have, but yeah, it used to be not even feasible to have more than one microphone open at a time. When these were ran through Google Hangout, you didn't dare have two people on video at once because it would fuck up the whole system if you had more than one. Same thing with the audio. Sometimes if you had another, two people talking, they needed to mute their mic while they weren't otherwise, it would pick up all kinds of weird stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. You have to use your discernment in every now moment you're in. You can't know what you're going to do really exactly and 100% what you would say on most typically anything. There are some exceptions, but I lost a little bit of my train of thought there, but you have to use discernment
You're. I'm not.
and
You're muffled a little bit there, Larry.
you were too just there. Yeah, you
Okay.
have to use totally. You have to use your discernment in every now what I like to call every now moment that you're in, because the next now moment from now you won't be in that same one, and so on and so forth. Yeah,
Yep.
you just have to you have to use your discernment. You have to understand that a lot of the times it's not personal. It's not personal, especially this feedback being created by whoever's doing it out on the ether. Yeah, I know it's not personal. They're just having a good time with us, but really,
I'm hearing it.
when you-
Yeah.
yeah. And then sometimes too, when you bond with somebody over an issue, really, and you want it to go further than that, you want it to go beyond that. But really, that's the only thing you guys have in common. I think we touched on that earlier in this show, right?
Yeah. That it's temporary, conditional is what I'm hearing. Yeah. It's and we're moving into as we move into those loving relationships, as we move into those loving relationships with ourselves, then we're moving into this place of unconditional relationships, unconditional love. And those are going to be, I'm hearing, the pillars of the Aquarian age that create those communities.
Collective, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Collectives of individuals that are all their own unique individual. However,
Sovereign. Yeah.
sovereign in their own. However, they're so enlightened that they look at the other people that they're with as, people to kind of look up to a little bit, and people look up
Yeah.
to them. It's spiraling the emotion back and forth, spiral the love, stifle the hate, spiral the whatever,
Yeah.
spiral the love,
The the unconditionality of those allows incredible flexibility and vision, I'm hearing. And it's like, when those will be grounded not in the, I'm hearing they'll be grounded in the intent of healing. There, some people might have visions of what they want for the community, but the whole point of it is not going to be this fixed vision. It's going to be this joining of souls, and unconditional love, and how many ways it can be expressed, and then visually, physically expressed too, into these communities, which are forming now, but they're just in the beginning. You know, yeah, it'll be amazing. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, community is about relationships. And so these are all sovereign souls that have these beautiful, open, loving relationships with themselves. And then they gather together, which creates this community. And there's
Yeah.
this incredible flexibility of available and expansion, because there's no walls on it, on other than the walls that the individuals will put on those for their own, I'm hearing, sovereign choice. Um, yeah, and it's at the core, what I'm getting is the shift in relationships. The reason we're talking about this podcast is that, the relationships are shifting. People are dropping away that have always been there, or your relationships are shifting, maybe with those that are very close to you, and they can't drop away because they're family, and you can't really talk to them like you used to, because
Yeah.
you're not at the same place, and that's okay. It's a place, just like you're saying, you can't take it personal. They are where they are, you are where you are. You connect with them as well as you can, and as with all relationships, they're teaching you. And you might find, and you will find, this has been my experience, that I love my family. I love them. And the relationship I have with them is very different than the relationship I have with soul family. And the community that I would build or be within in soul family, in that unconditional space. There aren't any fixed forms, is what I'm hearing. There's no fixed forms, there's no fixed grids. Um, it's just supporting each other. And ideally, family is that way, and I know that exists. I know that exists, and it will exist more and more, because that frequency can now be held on the planet. Thank you, God. But it's like, more and more, it's also, and I'm being reminded of the youth, the children are bringing in that frequency as well, because they hold that frequency. Um, they are that frequency, and as we move into these beautiful, open, unconditional, loving, sovereign, supportive, courageous, I'm also hearing too, relationships with ourselves, and going in those places with ourselves where we thought we'd never go. But when you hold up, and you've got this acceptance of self, and this belief in self, and others are seeing that as well, and they're holding that up for themselves as well, the bar is raised for all of humanity, and the potential of what really true, authentic, loving, unconditional relationships can take you to, can take us to,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately.
Yeah.
Larry.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to see how it all plays out too when you're involved in something like that. And I think that too ties into it's an example of just how important the realization is that everything is just a now moment. Everything, there is no past or no future, right?
Yeah.
There's just right now, and everything we operate on so many endless ones as a race, as a society, that I mean, there's just so many that um, yeah, it's really it's bizarre, and I think it goes into you going back to discernment again, and if something feels funny about it, but you're not quite sure, I think it's time to go within maybe do a little meditation and ask yourself why you're having any kind of thing like this, any kind of feelings that you're having. That
Right.
yeah, it might be a good idea to work some steam off and try to figure out what it is. 'Cause,
You know, I'm gonna say something because I actively am this now where um in my soul group I was always the counselor and the peacemaker
mhm,
and that's me. That's just the nature of me. And I used to allow myself to be and there's no judgment on my soul family, those before and those now. The burden, I'm hearing the burden of the counselor, the burden of the peacemaker, the burden of, and now because I'm freer within myself, my boundaries are much firmer and soul family call me or reach out to me and I can feel immediately through my discernment where they are. What is their intent of this? Is this just some light phone call and I don't feel like having a light phone call? Or do they really genuinely, are they in a place where they need my help? And even if they need my help, do I need to stop what I'm doing right now and go to them?
mhm,
Or can I get back to them in 15 minutes? Can I, and I'm now at this place where, and I don't know about you, Larry, you probably reach this place where I reach such deep states within myself that if somebody calls me and I don't feel like talking to them for one, and I'm in this deep state, I for myself have reached places where I can't speak. I can't, my mind can't connect to the words other than like one or two words. And, you know, especially if it's somebody who's going like this, and I'm like, I'm can't talk right now. I'll call, it's like, it's like I can't, it's my brain. It's how deep I go within myself. And I know this happens with others where it's like, it's very clear that the divine wants me to continue this deep conversation. And I've had to learn to hold that deep conversation and also to put up loving but firm boundaries where I'm like, um, I cannot talk right now. Can I call you later? Oh yeah, that's
mm,
fine. Blah 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 blah. Um, and it's like the more that you get into these very deep conversations with self, which are deep conversations with your guides, with the divine, with what do you call it, star brothers and sisters, right? And you pull away from the physical more, and you're in these very, I'm hearing etheric even conversations. Um, yeah, and you get better at the over time because you learn through other relationships from other choices made that aren't respecting your boundaries. You learn, oh, oh, I really didn't want to talk to them right now. I really didn't like being pulled away. I know they wanted to talk to me about, maybe it's not even some kind of crisis thing. They just wanted to talk and I didn't have to talk then. I could have like talked to them later today or something and they would have been fine and I could have stayed in my place where I was so connected. And it's like you learn the hard way about being firmer with those boundaries, even with those that you love, um, at the right times, Larry. Oh, did I lose you? I think I
no,
lost Larry.
no,
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 you did?
no,
Okay.
no, absolutely not. No, I'm here and live in the flesh, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Carolyn. Yeah, it was just it's a subject that is kind of near and dear to I think even the people who talk about it, it's near and dear to everybody's heart, and it goes back to using the discernment, and understanding how powerful you are being. Well, that's what I wanted to say earlier when I was slipping up. Is that you know normal people are learning to get full of the feeling. Of course, we all know you need to love yourself. We all know that we've heard it a million times. Yeah, yeah, but it's actually getting full of that feeling. You know, full of that feeling, and be more confident and understanding that you don't have to be alone even when you're miserable. You know, there's You're saying okay, no. Um, yeah,
Right, Larry.
I'm getting a lot of feedback on you. Okay, now you're good there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's we're all at such, they talk about this split happen. Okay, it's a split. We talked about it. Mostly every one of our shows, Carolyn, has come up a little bit, right? So the split actually is, I think we're all individually splitting off to be each other, to be our own. We are our own twin flame at one level, but then on another level, it's another person. But then on another level, it's a collective. Okay, and then that collective becomes part of another collective until it goes all the way back to the source again, and we're all connected again, right? And then it spirals back, but then it doesn't stop there because it never ends or stops. But then it spirals back, and it all points in between. It's just a constant revolving door life is. Um, Having karmatic patterns and the incarnate having the incarnate here 1,000 times. No, I'm talking about you can get I'm getting a lot of bad feedback on that end. I might have to.
Yeah,
Let
I'm
me
hearing the feedback.
see.
Just
Hold on a sec. Let me try something out here. Yeah, that's weird. That was weird. Um,
what?
Nothing. I had the microphone on mute, and I was talking. Everybody else can hear me, but you. But that feedback's coming through. You know what's going on though right now, Carolyn? I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but check this out. The last few days, okay? Yes, we have two Coast Guard bases here, but the military has been hovering over really thick, and they could just be doing what they call RFOs. They do those every so often for a couple weeks, but I don't think so. It usually doesn't happen till later on in the summer. But they had jets like really low flying and just to where it's noticeable, and then having them hover there for the longest time over the coast. But we've had a lot of reports out here too of ETs. There was even one that went viral where all these different agencies were being called here locally. Um,
Wow, awesome.
yeah, yeah, and so people were describing it as they would morph apart and then they'd morph back together. These crafts, and then they just go duck and go fall, dive right into the ocean and dive right back up, and
Awesome.
make all these maneuvers, right? So
Yeah,
that's been going on. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but it just seems really thick. And I don't
I'm
know if
sure it
it's
does
moving.
at some level. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure too. And the sound has just been you kind of maddening. And it's the vibration, you can feel it. And I just can't help but wonder if that's messing with the flow of this a little bit with the
Maybe
with the walk.
it's. I'm getting well, what we had. Remember, we had that podcast about sound, and so I'm getting something. I was getting something about sound. Our perception of sound shifting is one thing I
Yeah,
was getting, and then I was getting something like sound. Well, it's the same thing. It's the other end of the same thing. Our perception of sound shifting and sounding different, which is the same damn thing, guys. That's the same thing. Um,
they're
yeah,
being technical with you again, huh? They're getting into that game of semantics with you.
they're being
Yeah,
thorough. Yeah, that's the way I
yeah.
get it. Really thorough, where it's like, oh yeah, I got that. I got that at this end, that end, that end, that end, up above, up below, sideways, and upside down. Thank you. So
Boy,
yeah.
it's really loud, dude. Boy, it's really
What
loud out there. Yeah, it's strange. They're just hovering. Um,
interesting. Well, you
yeah,
were
I know.
saying that there were a lot of, and I'm not going to say. Remember, I told you I had that conversation with my soul sister. I'm not going to say
Mhm,
ET. I'm going to say, Star brothers and sisters. And so,
mhm. Kind of
yeah, you had a lot of Star family that
always,
were
yeah,
showing up,
here every night. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
but
been
they're
thick. It's
there,
been
but
heavy.
their presence or their prevalence is more, which would make sense. I mean, we're June 2025 now, so
Mhm.
um, and then oh yeah, okay, June 2025, and then the thing that resonates very deeply for me, which is what they call it, the Silver Gate. I was listening to our favorite person, Paul White Gold Eagle, and um
Yeah.
Aldebaran, right? Aldebaran, and the lineup of the planets,
Hmm.
which is
All
like
the barrels. Yeah.
significant because it's about the star. We're here in service. Those that are here in service came through the gate, the Aldebaran Silver Gate, which I really resonate very deeply with. And we come through it and we go back through it when we leave.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I can believe that. Yeah,
Yeah. Three,
there's
six,
probably a
nine.
lot
Three.
happening,
Yeah.
right?
We go in the same way. Yeah, we go back out the same way we came back in, or the same way we came in is the way we go out.
Right,
Yep. Yeah, that's
right,
that gateway.
right,
And
right, 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 right.
when you talk about then there's the major one of getting out of the galaxy is the Antares gateway. That's where whoever came here and settled this galaxy at first settled, us and Andromeda, because we were the two chosen galaxies out of the 1,000 galaxies in this infinite, this very young universe and infinite universes. We have 1,000 galaxies, and the two that were the chosen ones were Andromeda and the Milky Way. Now you had two races that were set up there. The Arcturians and the Andromedans are the same thing. They're the same lineage, same exact thing. They're just the only difference between those two races is that they stay developed separately from each other. One was in Andromeda, and of course, one was over here in the Milky Way. Now, I don't know how Arcturus got jilted and didn't get the galaxy named after them too. I'd be kind of a little bit peeved if I was them. Andromeda got their galaxy named after them, and Arcturus had to settle for the Milky Way name. But right, there's these gateways and portals opening up, and then it opens up to the fact that we're all our own portal as well. Everything
Oh,
is within, but it's also without. Everything is within, but then it is also without. It's just like looking out into the universe. It is both a hologram and it's real too. It's a
it's not.
hologram, but it's real as well. It's also real too, and that's a hard concept for people to understand sometimes.
Yeah, you left, or no, you left. You left and came right back. Um, you there?
Yeah, I'm here now, definitely. Yeah, I didn't know I had. No, I didn't know. I know
You were in the
TikTok
middle
deleted
of
this.
a, that was interesting, of a flow, and then you just, and every time they do that, I'm like, okay, what time is it? How far? We're an hour
Yep.
and a half right now,
We're about an
maybe.
hour and a half, and today was kind of an impromptu show. I mean, we do this every Thursday, but we didn't really have time to get it out there and have a lot of serious debate about it. In fact, Carol and I were debating whether to even go on air today. But you know
Yeah,
what? I'm down for the cause. I only not do not want to come on air if it's really something serious. I want to try to soldier through it and get through it, and come
I
on.
got
But
it.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
they're kind of
absolutely.
giving us a hint that it's maybe they're giving us kind of a hint. I think that as far as this subject goes, right? I think for the time being, I've said everything I need to say. I know Carolyn, you and I had talked about the intimate relationship thing, where that's kind of a separate issue, even though it's come up a little bit.
Very much.
That's kind of its own issue versus like putting distance between you and a friend or a family member, right?
Yeah.
Showing them distance. Yeah, it's kind of a whole nother highlight. Here's my favorite word again, Carolyn: dichotomy. It's it's a separate dichotomy between. Yeah, Carolyn knows. Yeah, it's a separate dichotomy um, when you're dealing with the other. Okay, yeah, whether you're intimate with them, that's one thing, and then there's the deal with just friends and family who can kind of see friends and family can kind of be recycled through your life time and time again. You're with them for a while, you're not. That's kind of more of a spiral relationship, but that can be a little bit more fluid. So most of the time when it's over in a relationship, it's over, and it's over, right? It's over most of the time.
Right.
Now everything's still fluid a little bit, but things do happen. But most of the time with that, there's not that. And it's funny how we put such an emphasis on the blood tie to people, right? The blood tie, right? That we're related to them by blood, so it's different, right? And I've never looked at shit that way. I don't look at things like that way. One of my kids is we adopted her when she was 5 months old. Sky, my youngest, my daughter.
Oh,
I got my two
beautiful.
biological sons, and we adopted her when she was 5 months old. My wife and I with the kids. Yeah, she. So
Oh,
but that's kind of different when you adopt, of course you consider them your kid, but I mean I consider like people that have been friends with me my whole life. I consider them family too, though. They're just as much family. This whole
yeah.
blood related shit is so tribal. It's such a tribal concept, and that might be an issue to tackle one day too. It's such a tribal concept. Well, their blood. Well, big fucking deal. So, that person down the street that you've known forever, your whole life, they're a friend of yours too. What makes it different that you're genetically related? Because now you're getting into separatism when we're
Beautiful,
all
Larry.
one. Yeah,
Beautiful, Larry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never vibed with that. I've tried to, now when I was younger, when I was younger, before the internet, before I knew everybody and shit like that, way, way before, I try to talk myself into that sometimes that it mattered. I say, well, that's blood. You got to do it because they're blood. Well, they're blood. No, you should do it because there's somebody who's special to you just because they're special to you, right? You
Yep.
know, um,
Yep. Very much.
exactly, exactly. It's like this. Okay, so I wouldn't go this far. I had a friend one time. This was, and I met him on here. This guy Dean, years and years ago. It was about 12 years ago. We were talking one night, and his daughter or his son just was getting ready to graduate from Harvard Law School. Okay, his daughter had just graduated from the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. Pretty impressive, huh? Right? When you say for two kids, who
Yeah.
wouldn't be proud, right? But I said, God, Dean, you must be so proud. You must be so proud. And he went into these semantics. He's all, no. He's all, no, 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 no. I love them, but I'm not proud at all. And I got to think, God, has he got some kind of a military hang up? What it is? And I'm thinking they're
Yeah.
lawyers. And he said, no. He said, the thing about it is if I was to say that, I would be showing ego because I should be just as happy that some kid down the street that's their age or whatever, every child. He said, I'm happy for every child. We're all one as a race. We're all one. And if I were to just sit there and say, oh, I'm so proud of it, but I'm not saying that about other people that I know, then I'm showing ego. And I thought about it. I was like, fuck, man, it's kind of, on one hand, either that's kind of one of the things you run into where either that's some really super sophisticated thinking, or on another hand, he's kind of, it's weird because for what we are as a human race, it's kind of a little bit of a stretch to go that far. To but he ultimately ultimately the dude's right, really. In a
Right.
way,
Right. But
yeah.
it's like it's the discretion of the soul. It's the discernment and how and the particular relationship they have with those individuals. Um, and bottom line would be with yourself. Yeah, because there's also. I mean, it sounds like a funny example, but this is what I'm getting to use as an example. Fine. You know, I see birthdays on Facebook, and I wish everybody I see happy birthday because to me,
Hmm.
birthdays are a celebration of you, and that's a big deal. That's just me. That's how I
Hmm.
feel. And there's others I might see their birthday and I'm not as close to them. And so I may not like do the whole happy birthday thing on the thing. I might say I might and I'll heart it because I heart everything. That's just me. And I'll just say happy birthday and maybe put a cake or something and or there've been a couple
Hmm.
times where I just because it's the nature of me, I wanna celebrate everybody. I choose to celebrate everybody. But it's like maybe my energy level, I'm kind of like, you know, I'll
Yeah,
heart it or if it comes into my reality, because to me, the way I receive it, just like you were saying, what did you call it? Matrix something?
your individual matrix. Yeah, your personal own matrix. Yeah, you're in.
Matrix.
Everybody's in your
Yeah.
matrix, and you're in theirs.
Within
Yeah.
they call it within me your own personal reality, your own individual experience. And so it's like so anything that appears in that is your own. It's like your reality. So you give validity to it or not. And so for me, if that's in my own personal reality, I'm going to choose how much energy I put into it. And so maybe somebody I don't know, but you're seeing there's a birthday thing. Well, I'm just going to wish them happy birthday. But I might not
Hmm.
do a whole long thing of happy birthday with all the emojis that I've normally put. I might just do,
Yeah,
I've done
happy
A.
birthday. Or click that
I've done
thing that says happy
A.
birthday. Thank God Facebook
Yeah,
has that thing now. You can click that. But if I really know I'm good and I'm in a
right,
good mood, I'll give them. There's this Beatles cartoon where they're singing. I say it's your birthday, and it's got them in a
right,
cartoon. I'll send them that or some shit like that, right? But then again, sometimes I feel like, okay, I don't know me. I don't know how cool me and this person are anymore. It's not that I know anything particular, but I might not want to.
right.
Have you ever been into that where you just didn't wish them one because you're not sure where they are?
You
You're
don't
not sure what.
you don't want to dip your foot in the water is what I'm hearing. You're not you're like you don't want to
Yes, yes,
engage that energy is another thing, and
right.
I'm like a moth to a flame or something. Yeah,
Mhm.
tripping that wire. It's something I'm getting like that. Yeah, and yeah. So you just kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna see you, and I'm gonna wave.
Yeah, and then,
But I mean,
Carolyn, yeah, sometimes I've got all these pages, so sometimes what'll happen is that I'll be scrolling through one of them, right, and then I'll see that it was somebody's birthday a few days back, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, that's a person I really would have wanted to wish happy birthday to." So I send it,
yeah,
I say happy belated birthday to them, and make up some lame lie of an excuse that, "Oh, I didn't see," which I did, and I'm not really lying, but that, "Oh, I have been," I try to, say more than just, "Oh, I just didn't see it," like, "Oh, well, I didn't see it because of this and that," and all that stuff, right?
I mean, to me,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, when we're talking about birthdays, I mean, there's other events that happen, but I always see this because to me, we're all eternal souls, and
Yeah.
even though we don't appear that way now, and so my thoughts are always, and I don't do this with everybody, but those that I feel like would resonate with it, you know,
Mhm.
I'll say, "Happy birthday, eternal soul," or blah blah blah. If I'm like
Yeah.
5 days late or 2 weeks late or whatever, because to me, the recognition and the connection is all that matters. Even if it comes too late, 2 weeks late, even if it comes a month late, it's beautiful that the person reached out to me and
It
chose
means
to
a little
spend.
extra something to me. I've had it happen to me, and, kind of actually, if anything, Carolyn, it kinda means a little extra something to me that they took the time to go ahead and do it that
But they
late,
did that, yeah. And
yeah.
I'm going to qualify that with bringing it back to our podcast. The reason is because it's the relationship you have with you that you know that's significant and that you would want that kind of mirror back.
Mm.
You know,
Yes.
interesting.
It it's exactly it, no doubt about it. It's really a thrill when something like that happens, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I don't get up there and think, "Oh god, well, oh, they just waited 2 weeks to fuck with me. They said they'd get around to it." No, it ain't like that, man. It ain't like they jip me on something and didn't give it to me, and no, that there's a discernment, but there are people still caught in that vibration where they would think, okay, well, why didn't they wish me a happy birthday on my birthday? It's kind of late now. Well, dude, it ain't like
yeah,
they forgot your goddamn gift or your meal for the night. They people are busy, man. You know what I mean? People get busy, and it's just the way it goes. But everybody at their own pace and level, and doing the mosey
yeah.
stroll, moseying on.
I'm getting something that people who are souls who have not engaged in that inner work or who have avoided it are they're in defensive mode, and because they're in defensive mode,
Mhm.
because their external environment is more of a threat than something that is an extension of them, because they're cut off from what they are, seeking external answers is what I'm hearing, then they're in defensive mode, and that's the place where they attack. They attack others, and they are offended by others because they are already in that heightened space of it's like minefields is what I'm seeing, and because
Yeah.
they aren't, they're in defensive mode. They're in defensive mode in
Mhm.
their reality, and so they would take offense because um, it's all personal to them. It's all personal. It's all they're not
Our
recognizing.
brain's almost programmed to feel that way. It's funny you say that. This morning I had a channeling come through from the your favorite, the blue orb goddess of the Pleiades, and she had
Yeah,
touched on that with me a little bit about how our brains are conditioned here in a 3D dense reality to get defensive kind of quick and like just really like look at things as a danger. We're more of in a survival
right.
mode
Yeah,
even when we're relaxing and happy and in a comfortable situation at the time, our brain is still not turned off completely from that survival mode here. Um, yeah,
yeah. No, it's
interesting.
true, and it you could feel your thought, even you could feel your thoughts going there, and you can choose to take your thoughts there or not, but it's like I'm, and I yeah, I understand that. I'm thinking of individuals who haven't I'm hearing like awaken to that inner conversation clear as day right
Hmm.
now. They're yeah, they're still in survival mode. They're in this place of they're not really knowing themselves. um
Yeah.
and so they're those relationships, oh, that makes sense. The
Hmm.
relationships they have with others are rigid because the relationship they have with themselves is rigid,
Mm.
because
Yep.
they because the way they see themselves is conditionally. They have to meet the conditions in which they were programmed by their uh, I'm hearing society, parents, friends, ancestors, to be that way in that rigid
Yeah.
existence, that space, and they expect others to be in that rigid existence and space as well. And yeah, which is
To a T, that's exactly that'd be the perfect picture perfect way I would describe a lot of people in that scenario you're talking about, right? Their upbringing has been that way, their relationship with people has been that way, that rigid way. Their perception of themselves is that way.
Mhm.
Every scenario, right?
Fragile. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hearing they're fragile, and that's something
Mhm.
that I've and you learned it too. But in the old, they used to talk about sensitive people being fragile people, and the truth is that those that are sensitive and those that are um, they're walking in their truth, they're not fragile people at all. They're very anchored, very connected, and they've been like a tree.
As grounded, yeah,
The
I was just
fragile,
gonna say as grounded as you could imagine, yeah.
yeah, the fragile are the
No.
ones that are isolated within themselves, is what I'm hearing, and they're in fragile relationships with themselves, which is the place and the call for compassion for those that are that know those that in their lives, because there's still many that are in these these relationships with themselves and their reality. um, One pin drops, one thing shifts, and everything
Mhm.
falls apart
Oh,
because
fuck, big time.
the way they address themselves is conditionally and their reality, and they don't they don't have flexibility. They Yeah, yeah, and that, I mean, that to me is another reason for this podcast, and others who choose actions like this towards kind of speaking our truth and opening it up, and hope and serving the collective is to give to give tools for those that are in these rigid spaces. Um, Maybe to plant seeds. You know,
Totally, absolutely, totally, and to give maybe somebody else just a slanted way of looking on things, and then, or maybe it feeds an idea to somebody else who can domino that effect off of somebody else, and they can, feed off of that. Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what it's all about. If we could touch one person in one slight way, even in some direct way down the line, I feel like
That'd be
will
awesome.
have done, done what we set out to do. Really,
Yeah.
it's not about solving the universe's problems, but
No.
one little quantum, right? What are we talking about? Quantum? Our new people are quantum, doing everything quantum.
Oh, remember we
Yeah,
talked about that? We said,
yeah.
okay, so and you said quantum, and because we were talking about it, and I said the subjective is quantum.
Hmm.
We were going back and forth because quantum is individual per each one of our individual energetic fields, and subjectivity is how we perceive and receive our own reality through those lenses. Quantum lenses? Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna write that one down.
Hmm.
The quantum
Yeah,
lens.
Carolyn had to really describe that one to me. When Carolyn said that, I was like, I was thinking to myself, the two together, subjective quantum. So I had to have Carolyn really break that down for me to get it. But it does make sense what she's saying, absolutely. But I had to have her. I was like, wow, how do you tie them together? And then she did. But even I was like, huh? Yeah.
It's yeah, and then we can connect that to the relationships, because it's all colored and shaped by those relationships, especially the one we have with ourselves. Because quantum is
Hmm.
not then in the universe of somebody who is living in a rigid space, in a fixed
No,
space within
hell no.
themselves. It's
Little
yeah,
boxes.
it's a box, and I'm not being given how many are in that space, but there's many souls that are still, they're holding on to that. However, there's so much shaking outside of those little boxes. Um, yeah, there's so much shaking, and I'm really seeing within me. I'm seeing a box, and I'm seeing a bell, and the bell's like, boing, boing, against
Bell,
the
yeah, you
box.
and your here comes the bells again. Yeah, yeah.
The bells, yeah, the bells. Yeah, and so it's and the beautiful thing is that we're recording this, and so this podcast will exist now and in the next now. And I'm hearing to say God willing, fine. And
Yeah.
that, you know, wherever a soul is, if they're called to this, then there's tools that we're offering and we've offered to begin that work, to continue that work, to dissect that work, and all of it is based on that core relationship that you have with yourself, and it probably starts in the external by somebody that you know, a good friend, or by the dysfunctional relationship I'm hearing maybe you've had with parents or a parent, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been that trigger and that catalyst to figure out who the hell you are, and you are definitely not that, and you definitely don't want to do that. And the gift of the soul of that soul was to be your catalyst, you know? Um, yeah. Larry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what you're here to do. If you can get somebody else to see things a little bit different, or spurn that on, everything starts with it. Okay, everything starts with a thought, or everything starts with a thought, then a notion, then a plan, then where it goes from there, who knows? Maybe it was not meant to go any further than that, right? But that's how a lot of great ideas and a lot of great new concepts of doing things have started, right? So
Right.
it just all depends. But everything that you put out there into the universe is valid. Everything is
Yeah.
valid, whether it's positive or negative. But then again, you get out of the positive and negative out of it. It's just energy. It's just an energy thing. It's like a karma thing. Okay, so you put something out in the universe, you're gonna get back what you put out there. But if in the meantime, before that happens to you, if in the meantime you're from an honest heart based standpoint, you're doing something positive, right? You can stave off that karma coming back at you because it's energy, and it's not a matter of, oh, I can do this to make up for this. No, that's not how that works either. But if you genuinely do something, you can stave off other bad karma that you might have be coming your way. And I'm breaking it down into real, like, layman's terms when I put it that way, because it's the energy that you're putting out there, right? And of course, if you and you do some, say you do some little small fucked up thing, right, and it comes back, it's going to come back on you or whatever. But in the meantime, you all of a sudden you've had a change of heart. You do all these other things. I mean, of course, you're going to stave off that shit from coming back at you, right? Some of that good juju you put out there is going to stop that bad juju from coming at you. And I
You
say
need to,
that to
yeah,
it's the only way in earth terms I can break it down, right? Like that. I mean, it's not quite
break
like
it down.
that, but break it
Yeah,
down,
it's
right?
break it down. It just needs to come from loving intent or pure intent with no strings attached, and
Hmm.
that staves off karma in that instant, because there's nothing attached to it. It's kind of freely given. And there's something, yeah, there was something I was given within myself yesterday that I'm not going to show you because it's not written very well, but it's basically, it says to share is to receive. And it's the freely giving. And that's what you're talking about, that you accrue no karma. Yeah, none of that. You don't have any intent other than loving intent, supportive intent, pure intent, neutral intent. Nothing that has any of your bias on it,
Nope,
basically.
absolutely. Right, right. And I'm not trying to get into a karma game because I'm not really a big guy in putting it that way. Oh, that's bad karma. That's bad karma. No, it's just the way it is. It's
Yeah,
just how it works. It's how the energy of the universe works. It's how the source flow of all that is that consciously goes. The creational
yeah,
source flow of all that is that consciously goes. You know?
yeah.
Yeah,
The
it,
the
it
only
is.
other thing, the only other thing I'm going to say, because in the example I gave about the family with the parent that was the catalyst. I mean, there
Uh-huh.
are families that have parents that are they're supportive, and you want to be like them, and there are these mentors and these teachers, and that's ideal, and that exists as well.
Hmm.
And again, it's through relationship. It's the, and then there is, I don't know why, but I guess we're going to cover it. briefly, very briefly,
Uh-huh.
because there's
Okay.
relationships with other people, but you can have also relationships um, with pattern. Yeah, relationships with all things, relationships with patterns, relationships with um,
Hell, Carolyn,
things.
yeah,
You
hell,
know,
doesn't interrupt, not to interrupt you, but hell, I even saw something where a guy was married to a mannequin. So I mean, you can have relationships with anything, but yeah, and a car
with
too. But
anything.
that's another story.
Yeah, it's like yeah. So I mean, for me, yeah, I feel like we've covered everything too, Larry.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've offered what we can offer, and I feel yeah, I feel good. I feel good.
Yeah,
Larry.
yeah, absolutely. I'd like to say that, yeah, like I knew that I would now. Get down to James Brown style here. Don't let me get down. I feel nice like sugar and spice. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I got the rhythm, I got the rhyme, all that shit. I know you don't have to write me. But
All the time, all the time.
I'm getting cards and letters. People, you got to understand something. I'm getting cards and letters all the time from people. I mean, you ain't even going to believe it. People, friends that have been friends for years are not friends anymore just because they know I'm alive. People are leaving their spouses because they know that I'm alive. I can't even go out to the grocery store anymore because people will start fighting because they know I'm there and they don't even know me. It's just my energy. People are getting fistfights over me. Okay, enough of that. Um, yeah, we've covered about everything today that we can cover. What I was going to say though is anybody out there listening to this, if there's anything that you would like to know or us to cover on the show sometime, or I'm not going to say we're going to do it, but I mean, if there's anything interesting, because we appreciate feedback, we need you too.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know exactly. If it was just Carol and I wanted to hear ourselves talk, we just talk on the we just call each other on the phone and that'd be it. But because
right.
we want any kind of feedback, because this is for humanity. We're all in this as a team. You know what I mean? Forget my sarcasm for a minute, because I'm a very
Yeah,
sarcastic person. Not being that way right now. Being really, real with people.
yeah.
And
I
if
think
there's
we've said it,
anything,
Larry.
yeah.
I would just like you. I would love so much more feedback because
Hmm.
there is a community this is serving, and there's a whole group that are very resonant with this, and um, yeah, and for us to kind of hone in and bring forward what would serve the best right now with your combined connections. And I'm feeling connections with N and my combined connections,
Hmm.
and what we are, why we're here this lifetime, this pivotal, profound lifetime. And yeah, that would be so awesome to please give us tell us what you feel you want to talk about, what you want to discuss or have discussed. Just like he was saying, we can't guarantee it because him and I both have to be at that place where we're like, yeah, we'll that sounds right. You know, there's so many things we could discuss, and yet it also needs to be relevant and prevalent for that moment as well. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, absolutely. It has to be something that's relevant, prevalent that Carol and I are both comfortable with, but we're open to it because, I have tried to go around and look and see what people are talking about. And it's kind of, there's no really one thing, kind of everything's is becoming more of a mainstream type of community where there's just
Right.
so much. How do I say that? How does this make sense? There's so much that there's nothing. There's so much that there's nothing. But everything is
Yep.
we're such a diverse
Yep.
community now. It's not just a bunch of people sitting around cross-legged on the floor going and 25 or 6 to 4.
Which is
It,
really
it,
awesome
it,
too if you think of it.
yeah, very,
It's
very.
just
I did self-talk on
awesome.
it months back. Months back. It's so diverse. It's so diverse. There's so many great people in our community. There's great readers of all kinds. There's great people, Reiki, telekinesis, channeling, meditate, all kinds of different things that they specialize in and crossing over too. I mean, and talented too, because of it isn't even just because a lot of them have put a lot of work into it too, but these younger ones especially are just naturally gifted it. They're old souls. I
Yep.
said it on there. I said I'd rather have in a million years. I'd rather have one of these young girls that are even just half-ass doing it for fun. I'd rather pay them for a
Yeah.
reading than I would Sylvia Brown back in her prime. I'm sorry, it's just how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But then again,
I
on
know.
the other note, what I said was, I said, there's only one person I'd really let past life regress be, and it's Dolores Cannon. And then I caught myself and I said, and I said even on there, I said, listen to me, listen to the hypocrite I am. Okay, on one hand, Sylvia Brown's too old to give me a reading, but on the other
That's
hand, Dolores Cannon,
true.
yeah, yeah. On the other hand, Dolores Cannon, yeah. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's the difference? They both.
Mine would be Judith Kusel in a heartbeat.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
yeah, she's great, man. Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. Yeah,
What
yeah.
to give you a past life regression?
I
Anything.
don't know. I just I know that soul. I guess that's the only way to say it, right? I mean, yeah, just it's like going home when I connect with her energy. Yeah, she's so familiar to me.
Mhm.
Um,
I, I think a way to break the ice with her would be to say something like, Judith, I really admire your work. I'm open. You can do anything you want to me. I wouldn't put it quite like that at first. That'd be kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, there are people like that out there, though. You know what I mean? But it's not to say too that you would go jump off a bridge if she asked you to, too. You know what I mean? It's looking at it and admiring her for her work, and you resonate with it from a soul. You're not like, oh my god, you're not like somebody looking at John Lennon in the
yeah,
1960s and going, oh god,
no,
Jesus,
yeah,
I'm
yeah, no, it's
pissing
a
my pants.
connection for sure.
Very,
Yeah,
very, and that's not to say, when I talk about things like that, I tell people that just because I resonate with that doesn't mean you are. I'm just saying for me, it's a deep soul connection. And when I bring it up, and I know when Carolyn brings it up about somebody, it's because it really does with her, like Judith does with her. You know what I mean, and other people as well. So
yeah,
that's
for
the way it
sure.
is. And Carolyn Lanier Roberts, why don't, oh, hey, perfect timing. Why don't you tell everybody out there in the wonderful, 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 wonderful mother grabbing world of social media that they could find you if their heart so desired to look you up
I
more?
felt that. I felt that so strongly before you even said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there's a call. There's a phone call, like trying to interrupt me. Okay, so yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Carolyn Lanier Roberts. That's my personal page. I share everything public there. My mission business page is Allowing the Light, and that's also on Instagram. And I think it's just Allowing the Light. Maybe there's underscores between the
There is
words.
on one of them. I always tell Carolyn, I act like I know which one it is, but one of them, yes, ladies and gentlemen, one of her places there is an underscore, and I believe
Underscore.
Carolyn that's actually on Instagram.
Instagram, yes. Okay, and then on YouTube, which I haven't, yeah, I will be more active on there, but I have videos on there already. I have one channel, Carolyn Lanier Roberts, parentheses, is Allowing the Light. And then I have my old one, which was Allowing the Light. And I don't know if there's underscores on that. I don't think there are. And then, okay, and then I have an Etsy page where when I was really put onto this path was when I was doing the light language infused images, the blessing pics, which you've seen them, Larry, the orbs and the
Hmm.
other things and they are all portals to other dimensions, other timelines, and they're all many of them have channels because I am a pure channel with pure intent, and I'm here to just like I said earlier, reawaken the conversation of the heart, and that is the eternal place. Each one of us connects with the divine through us, and then the whole conversation is opened up once we move into that conversation. Um, and those are on Etsy, and that page is Allowing the Light. And I've said before in other podcasts, because Etsy's a labyrinth, if you put under search party supplies and you put Allowing the Light, you will find my blank card blessing pics. I have a lot of them, and you can find them on my personal page on Facebook and my mission business page. And let me think. Oh, I offer private sessions, one-on-one sessions, where I work with the what some would call the Akash within me. It's called the Library of the Heart, and my purpose is less about who you are in that space and more about what you feel and your experiences through and your emotions and your feelings, because those are energetic stamps that transcend time and space, and they shape reality. And I'm here to help you change that pattern in this now, which will change you, because your emotions and those feelings they're indicators. They are made or given to you in balance with the sacred mind, and there's this full conversation. But as you connect to those energies of the emotions and those feelings, they reveal so much more about your reality than most people realize. And they're these silent
Hmm.
indicators for sure. Yes. And I'm here to help connect you with that. to bring you forward into this present moment, to bring you into your with you, because I work together. It's not just me, it's me working with you to support you, to empower you with your own divine voice, with your own unique beauty, truth, and grace for who and what you are in every space. And you are this whether you recognize it or not. And my goal and my grace and my joy is to assist you in connecting with this, either through talking to you or connecting with you with the Akash within you, the library of the heart, or with other different subjects. All of them, I'm flexible because my focus and my desire is to serve you. And I work through the heart, and I work in that open space, unconditional, open, unwalled space. um, yes, thank you so much for your time and your presence. And I pray that this podcast serves. And Larry, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Carolyn. I really appreciate Carolyn's always a breeze and like a day off or a night off to work with. I always say that. Very calm, very grounding. It's something I need because I'm all over the place with my root chakra. But listen, I'll make it real simple, okay? Because I could go on. I've got 5 YouTube channels. This is just one of them that I'm on. I've got a Larry Locken 1 channel, 2 channel, 3 channel, 4 channel, 5 channel, but they all have handle names. A lot of people don't know you can do that. They all have handle names to them, different handle names, which used to be my old names. Somebody suggested I put my name on my brand, so I did with all 5. I like the BBC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this one that's coming off of YouTube right now is the Larry Locken 1 channel at Pleiadian Express Productions / YouTube. I have another 4 of them, but you can find all those at one place. There's a Facebook page called Rock and Larry Lock and social media outlets. Okay, that'll tell you everywhere every group I've ever created that's still in existence, every page that I've created that's still in existence, every YouTube channel where you can find me on. For instance, TikTok, Instagram, Lemonade. I'm the Lemonadian Pleiadian on Lemonade. Okay, Pleiadian Blue Sky Orbs on Blue Sky. But anywhere you go, the official page name will be at any of those. Will be the Larry Locken channel. Okay, so that's how you can find me anywhere on social media. But the Rock and Larry Locken social media outlets. Okay, and I would really appreciate a like, hitting the like or the follow. And what I can guarantee is this: that you're not going to be getting a lot of beeps and buzzes from it, notifications, because I don't post there. The only thing that gets posted there is, for instance, like Carolyn. I don't post our shows there, even our individual shows. Just our Facebook page is there, and that's it. Our Facebook page is there, and everything else I do is there. I don't post shit to it at all, unless I'm starting a new page or I'm starting a new social media outlet. Right, then I'll go ahead and post something there. But that's not often, as you can imagine. Okay, it's a couple times a year, if that, right? You'll get a beep from there. That's it. You won't even notice it's there. So hit that. I'd really like to. I'm not obsessed with numbers, but I've got 9,950, 900. I'm like less than
You're
50
almost
away
there.
from. Yeah, well, less than 50 away from 10,000. It'd be really cool to stay at 10,000. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. I'll start paying people to go there and do it. But anyway, that's where you can find me, Rock and Larry Locken social media outlets, or you can just, it's got a secondary name too. The page does. It's the Larry Locken Network. Okay, and so that's where you can find me, everything I do, because I'd be here. I could do a show, and I have done a whole show on all the ones I'm on. And that's the thing is, if you're interested in ever talking about these social media outlets, if you're somebody, I'm gonna say this real quick and get off. If you're somebody who's interested in some of these different ones for social reasons, I'd like to talk to you because I don't use them for social reasons. I use one place for social reasons. That's a Facebook page of mine called the Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orbs page. That one I'm a little bit social on. The rest of them, it's just for the brand, period. Okay, unless somebody engages me, then I will talk, but I don't go looking out for it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be a snob. If you talk to me there, I will, but I'm not going to go looking for it. Okay, but I'd like to talk to people who are into some of these, but I don't want to hear from somebody who's just they're just into TikTok or they're just into Facebook or they're into only just 2 of them. I want somebody who's at least into 3 of them, right? And they've tried a couple others, right? I want some people to kind of give me some feedback and we'll talk about it, hash it over. What do you like? Which one do you like? Which one don't you like? I have my issues with all of them. They all have about 2 or 3 issues. They're not the same, but it's weird they don't fix them, and I don't know why. But I won't get into that here. I've got into it before on TikTok and talks and on YouTube, but that's how it is. So that's where you can find me, and we're up against the 2 hours. Okay, I've got like 1 minute now. I don't want to go over 2 hours because then I've got to it fucks with the editing a little bit. So Carolyn, for Carolyn Linear Roberts, I am your host, the Iceman, Rock and Larry Locken. And we will see you next time. And with that, I'm going to give everybody a big cosmic dating game kiss. Mwah! Da, 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 da. And that's a wrap. And we are out with 45 seconds to spare. If I can get the text out.
Okay.